Before we dig right in, do not forget to download Guidebook. There is a feedback section on how to improve MAGFest for everyone. So please, which I assume we all have smartphones, go on and search in your app store, find Guidebook, download that shit, and please give your feedback because that is incredibly valuable. So we're gonna go down the line and just state your stage name or government name, whatever, and also share with our audience what it is that you do. So we'll go from my left to right.
Yo, what up? I'm Oh My. I'm a rapper / self-producer / other things music related. I'm from Brooklyn. I live in San Antonio, Texas, and I do cool stuff. That's about it.
That's very concise and clear to the point.
Yep.
My name is Creative Mindframe. I am living currently in Dallas, Texas. If we're talking where we're from, I'm from Ghana, West Africa. Represent. What's up? I rap. I play the saxophone, and I self-produce a little bit as well. I think that's about it, right? Yeah. They don't care about my other stuff, right?
Business project.
He's also like a genius. Hi, my name is Samus. I'm a producer. I'm also a rapper, and I'm working on a dissertation right now on the politics of community studio spaces. And I'm based out of Philadelphia, but I'm from upstate New York, and I'm from the Congo. That's where my dad's from.
So again, I'm Shubzilla. I'm a rapper. I'm also one of the co-founders of a nonprofit organization called Geek Girl Con. And I am legit Houston, like nerdcore auntie. I will feed you, I will house you, and depending on who you are, I will lecture your ass. So that's what I do. And I'm from Seattle, or the Seattle metropolitan area.
My name is, my government is Kyle Murdoch. My stage name, wait for it, is K Murdoch, because DJ Hot Beats was corny. I'm from DC, yay! I'm a hometown dude, yay! Okay, sorry, there's not a lot.
I was excited for you.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm a producer. I just say audio creative. I just like sound, new sounds.
I realized that my cap is not all the way on my drink, apparently. Let me move this out of the way. My name is MC Splashes Drink.
No. No.
My name is Kadesh Flow, and I rap, I play trombone, I make some beats. My life is dope, and I do dope shit. I'm just kidding. I'm Kadesh Flow. Yeah.
How you guys doing today? My name is Chris, aka IQ. I am also a rapper. I do a lot of videography and photography and organizing of events.
No, you're good. You're good. So I go by Bill Beats. I am a producer, DJ, mix engineer, all that good stuff. Kind of like Kyle over there. I'm from Seattle. I work with Shubzilla and all of those guys up north. Yeah.
All right, so why are collabs so important? Like, why do a collab?
They are awesome, right? So I found out that when I started doing collabs, so that little backstory. When I first started doing nerdcore music, I didn't really put out my own music. I just did a whole bunch of guest verses for everybody else. That was just my thing, and then it became a running joke that I had more guest verses than my own songs.
You still do.
I still do. It's true.
He still does.
But I learned at that point that that was when I was still in my learning phase, right? And so I realized that collaborating with other people just gets you out of your own comfort zone and helps you build. Obviously, that's like the foundation of collabing. But even more so, like you can take like a style that the other artist, the feature artist is using, and then kind of flip it or integrate it into your own so that it meshes well. You know what I'm saying? And that helps you grow, and it helps maybe the other person grow as well?
I think collabs are important because the idea of a singular genius who accomplished something monumental on his or her own is kind of a westernized, semi-American myth that is kind of exceptionalism based and is not factual at all. If you look at anybody who's accomplished anything great, it's been collaborative. So applying that to music, just from a learning and growth standpoint, especially if you're choosing the right people to work with at any level, but in this case musically, people who challenge you and inspire you, and then you're collaborating with those people, it elevates your game because they challenge you by being dope and being themselves, but they also might directly challenge you to grow. So if you're causing everybody to grow and everybody is elevating, through the collaboration process, it's really great. And I think that's something that, it's something that I always try to aspire to or whatever.
It's just fun too. I mean, think about, if you have, what's your oldest friend group, or what's the longest time you've had a friend? I mean, I'm actually asking y'all in the audience. Yeah. And think of, you can go back and look at the memories and say, hey, we did all these things together, right? We did this, we made this, we went here, we traveled here, right? I mean, it's no different than, it's no different than that. We look back and we're like, oh man, remember that first time we made a song in my friend's apartment in San Diego? That was the first time that we'd ever hung out. And you keep doing it, and then you look and you're like, yo, we made all of this stuff together. And like Ryan said, it's not just a singular person that did all of this awesome stuff. You get to look back and say, hey, we did this together, and it just kind of deepens the friendship that you have with, your fellow musicians and your friends. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's time hop.
It's an audio scrapbook.
It is.
For those y'all that like Martha Stewart. I don't know. I've only had 2 cups of coffee today, so bear with me. So going into some of the pros of collabing, what would y'all define as a successful collab?
Do you mean from an artistic standpoint, or just
Just in general, what does a collaboration project or a successful collaboration project or track or whatever, what does that look like to you? How do you define a successful I guess, team working thing?
I defined it myself on a couple of different factors. Number one, I take collaborations as learning experiences more than anything else. So it's also trying to see if the end product that I learned from doing became something that I was proud of doing, So in other words, if we turned around and we made a song, you may have a different style, and I may have a different style, and collectively, how did we make that mesh? So for me, I think a success tends to be something where we both creatively, gave to the project, and we both feel like it represents us both, and not just oh, well, I just did this thing, and now it doesn't sound like anything that I would ever do, but it sounds all like that person, So I guess the word I'm looking for, I guess,
Chris has a great IQ. Has a great project that's based on Attack on Titan. That is, for the most part, a collaborative project, which I know you might not plug it, but most of the tracks on there have multiple features on them. So his most recent release is something that he's actually lived out, and it really gels together well, stylistically and energy-wise.
And most importantly, what I loved about it, is I didn't want to make somebody feel like they had to go with what my, idea was for the track specifically. I wanted it to be something where they were expressing themselves, and that it was a part of their process as well. So, I like to collaborate in the actual sense of the word. You infusing what it is that makes you great at what you do, but also me saying, okay, well, this is how I do, and this is the direction that I would go. Let's see how we can make those two things work to where you shine and I shine, but we don't have to be the same. That's it.
I'll say that. Damn, wow. Back that up a little bit. I think a successful collaboration is usually when more collaboration comes out of it. Subsequently, like when I did, it's been 10 years since I started working with Megaran, and the first track we did was for an EP called Patches and Glue in 2008. And out of it, I thought it could have been a one-off thing, but out of it came Forever Famicom, and then subsequently 10 years of collaborating and touring and being able to pay my rent for like 5 years traveling with this guy. I mean, he, no lie, like Rand kind of dropped the phoenix down on my career in the sense of like I had been signed and done all this other stuff. And as a producer, I guess I'm always collaborating unless I just wanted to make instrumental stuff, which I do occasionally. And fun fact, Forever Famicom really was gonna be an instrumental project. And I just so happened to hear Megaran, and I was like, oh, he's into this stuff too. And out of it got birthed, him as the vocalist and us tag teaming on that. But subsequently, out of doing Forever Famicom, of good friendship, he's one of my best friends. He's a business partner. He's a homie and all those other day one, kind of things I can say. But the subsequent collaboration and then expanding my network to meet all of you all has come out of it. So, we were talking earlier, having a meeting, and I said, Randis, as my students say, is the plug. He was kind of like the plug that linked me to all of you all and the subsequent collaborations that have come from that. So I think that has totally been successful, because without meeting Rand, I would not be here, and that's just facts, as the students say. Facts.
Yeah, facts. I mean, it's really like, what is it that you want to get out of it? What are your goals? And like, what kind of pleases you in life, I guess.
Right.
'Cause my answer is a lot different than Chris's. I'm like, was it fun? Does it sound good? And did it get done on time? Like, those are literally, that's because, I mean, even, so whenever Megaran and I did a song like 2 months ago, and Destiny 2 was coming out, right? And he said, yo, we should do a Destiny 2 song. And so like my project planning self, I was like, all right, it launches on this date. If we get a beat by this date, and then we start writing some vague stuff, and then we fill in the vague stuff with what we actually play, and then we can put a video out like a couple of days after. And so we literally like planned it to the day. And then when it came out, we literally sat on PlayStation 4 and played through the campaign, and we just took video. And it was fun, like, and I'm cutting the video together while we're playing Destiny, and we put it up. And afterwards, we're like, yo, that was, like, good. He said, we executed on time. It sounds pretty good, and, like, there's a video and everything. He was like, you like it? Thank you. I was editing while we were playing. I was sitting there with my laptop, and then, like, Rand's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm coming. I'm catching up. I'm dropping this clip in, like. So, yeah, I mean, it's about what your goals are, because at the end, if you want to do a collab to make money and you don't make money, you're going to say, oh, that wasn't a successful collab. So that is true.
Bro, this collab was trash.
All right, so
Text message.
okay. Let's talk a little bit about dollars then. When do you charge for when people ask you to collab with them? And so this is a three-part question. What do you look for in a potential collab partner? How do you say, how and when, if at all, do you charge people for your contribution to said track or project? And thirdly, how do you say no if for whatever reason you are not available to participate?
So I'll answer the first part. The second part was it was how do you say no? Sorry, the first part was what do you look for in a potential collab partner? The second was, so just in terms of that, from an MCing perspective, I only want to work with MCs who are better than I am, who I think are like better MCs than I am. And that's maybe crazy, but it has forced me to step my whole shit up. Yeah, it's like a challenge to rise to the occasion, but I figure like if we're gonna get into something, I want to grow infinitely from that. So that's been a standard that I've set for myself, that only if I think like you could potentially embarrass me on the track do I want to like step into the ring with you. And it's, you know, that sounds very kind of antagonistic, but it's not like that. I feel like, but a part of MCing, a part of hip hop is like, you know, coming correctly. And so I want to work with someone who I think is going to force me to do that. And in terms of how do you say no, or when do you charge, that was the question. How do you kind of ask, and when do you ask? I would love to hear y'all's answers, because I'm terrible about that. And
Yeah,
in general, if it's like, if I know they got it to give, like if I know they have it, I might charge. I don't know, it's hard because the folks that I would charge are also folks that I often don't necessarily want to work with. So, you know, because it's like, I think Megaran has often said this before. He's like, oh, you know, if somebody whack comes at you, then be like, it's $5,000. And then if they actually pay, then you've made $5,000 to like do a verse that you're like, that's kind of a, you know, throwaway or whatever. But I don't want my verse on like a trash song. Like that is more important to me than having that extra dough. So, yeah, I would love to hear how y'all handle the money thing. And yeah, I just suck at saying no, so I often get flustered and don't do anything at all.
So I think Samus was straight gospel on that response. I've started to reach out to people more with like, for those of you who are familiar with my music, I haven't actually put out a project in 2.5 years, and every project that I've done has been entirely out of my headspace. And with the exception of We Are the Faithful, which I did with Atlas over here, one-piece-based EP, I've produced the majority of the tracks on the stuff I've done. So the last couple of years, I've been working on a project that has turned into 3 projects because it was huge. And I've reached out to more people because I have certain sounds, and then I'm getting to know more really dope musicians. In a similar vein to what Samus was saying, like I generally have tried to go with my concepts, and now I'm hearing things that I feel like somebody could address better than I can address. And then I reach out to people, and my process there has been, I always put it on the table, like, this is what I want, this is what I'm thinking. Do you like the track? How much do you want for your time? And it's always on the table, and most of the time, people just ignore it because we're homies, and that's fine if they ignore it. With people that I'm not super duper cool with, I usually pull up on them with a little bit of money anyway after they do the deed or when they're in the studio, just like a thank you card with like $50 in it or something minimal. But I think it's important as somebody who's seeking somebody's time or artistry or coding ability or whatever to put out there that you value what they're doing, even if they're just gonna give it to you. At least, you know, I wanna let people know like, hey, you know, I at least wanna ask, you know, how much you want if we're not like, you know, like a lot of these guys I work with all the time, or I'm around all the time, so it's like, you know, it's kind of like an assumption. But I also wouldn't be pissed off if one of these guys were like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna need some money for this, like, cause I feel like time should be valued. So that's something that's in the back of my mind. On the flip side of it, I kind of do the same thing. I really only charge people I don't feel like working with. And it may not even necessarily be that I don't like them. You know, I just may be really busy. It's like if I'm really busy, I'm going to charge you. Right. If this is something that's like we're just cool and it's chilling, you know, I'm probably going to roll down and do it. But I think, you know, there's like a fine line to balance, especially if it's people you think can challenge you and help you grow, where it's like, okay, I'm valuing the growth process, but I also do this for a living. So I think there's a kind of a line with that thought process that you kind of are balancing in any arena, whether that be, you know, in the gaming space or the music space or like a writing space or whatever. And the last part about that for me is like, I'm starting to be in a space where I'm like, people are just asking me to bring my trombone to studios and just sit in on these studio sessions with like really dope people. And in that case, it's like, okay, so do I do I throw a pay me this for my time here, or do I just go vibe out? And that is like a case-by-case decision depending on the circumstance. So I think it's kind of a lot of different levels to think about. I think the bottom line is making sure that people know that you value their time and then expecting your time to be valued. That's kind of.
Hey, does he need a badge for the pillow? There's a second. I just want to. Exactly. Where's the extra badge? Two badges.
Sober for that comment.
So
That was amazing.
I wanted to answer too because I think once again I'm a little bit on the opposite spectrum. I think that's kind of weird how everything you guys answer, I'm like, no, that's not what I do. But I will agree that like I do when I don't want to do something with somebody, I either charge them and like, hey, give me $500, or I say, no, it's literally like I do that because I'm like, if they're gonna give me $500, then yeah, I mean, you know. But a lot of times I just say I don't really feel like doing this. I think that stems back to like I know, like personally, I know what I want out of my life, and I know like when I'm old and like what I look back on, I want to look back and be like, yo, I did all this fun stuff. I like met all these dope people that I respect. And I don't know if any of you listen to my stuff, but if you do and you look at my progression from when I started making nerdcore, I used to collaborate with everyone, like anyone. You want to collab? You want to collab? Want to collab? Right?
You like
and like
Samuel
if you
Jackson's
notice,
Answer Machine? Yes.
yes, exactly. But if you notice, like over the past about year and a half, you'll notice that my collaboration circle is pretty much people up here or people in this room right now. And it's because these are the people that I respect and these are the people who I've become friends with as I've done music, and I enjoy spending time with them. You know, we're at conventions, we hang out, we get dinner, like, you know, so I'm like, yeah, if I'm gonna do something, I wanna do it with people who I respect and, you know, I call my friends. So that's kind of how I deal with it, and so, yeah, I don't even have to second guess it. And some of them, oh, go ahead.
How to gauge where you are with people?
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
saying?
Motives.
Yeah, that might. I mean, yeah, because
That's fine.
I mean, when I ask them, they usually say, "Oh, it's fine." But I also know that pretty much everyone up here is you know pursuing music full time. So I kind of ignore that and I find a way to get them money anyway. Like I think I went on you're like, who bought a bunch of stuff on my Bandcamp page one time, and I was like, that was me. Like, yeah. Because you know, like because I'm like, I know that this is how you know sustain yourself too, and so. Right. I mean, and I think that mutual respect that we have for each other too. It's like, you know, you may be like cool, but I'm gonna get you some way, you know, and sometime it may be a dinner.
I can say that to your question on the gauging thing, because I've thought about that, and I'm like, I know how I think, so I wonder if people think about me that way. I know personally, if you're fam, it's just like, we're just chilling anyway. But there are producers that I'm working with now who, they're like, well, I know their rates, they haven't asked me for any money, they're really happy that I'm traveling all over the place, playing their stuff and shouting them out. But when we're in Kansas City, I'll book gigs and I'll have them DJ the gigs so they get money from the venue, you know, or you know, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to approach it because that lets them know that you
Into
respect
the mic.
them. Oh, sorry. That's a good way to approach it because it lets people know that you respect their time, right? That's sometimes something that you never get back. So.
I just want to clarify, sorry, that it's not that I never would charge anybody that I want to work with, because again, this is an economy and you want to, you got to want to make money, but also, you know, as a sort of building in that practice into your work so that you don't have this identity as someone who can kind of just do stuff whenever. Right. But again, I think getting back to what Kadesh was saying, that it is contingent sometimes on what will end up happening from a particular thing. So I collaborated on a track with this MC named Open Mike Eagle, and I was like, how much do you want? He was like, man, I don't want anything. And then we went on tour together, and it was like, you know, we were able to big up each other and introduce each other to the other person's kind of supporters and fan base. So in that way, collaborations can kind of give back without there being like a monetary exchange in the moment.
That was so dope. because that was my first time ever hearing him. The only reason I heard him was because she came and did a show in Dallas, and I was like, oh, I gotta go support, homie Samus, and then we're there, and I'm watching his show. I'm like, oh my gosh, why have I not listened to this guy's stuff? I bought his album. I was like, this is so dope. Like, and I listen to it when I'm driving to work now. Yeah.
See,
We discussed a little bit about like how time is an important factor, and for me, and in regards to saying no, because I've been saying no a lot. It's a practice that I'm trying to get into, because I am that one that's like, oh yeah, sure. With what time, ho? So, for me, it's one of the questions I will ask the asker is, what is your timeline? And I've gotten everything from whenever, which is the best answer anyone could give me, to, okay, well, I'm looking for, like Oh My gave me a date of, I think, January 18th for a collab. I think I sent that to you like that Friday or something like that, with a profuse apology of why I'm late. But I've gotten things like that to ASAP. And, right? I mean, I have a family, I have 2 dogs to feed, a husband, like nonprofit stuff, like what we do up here, like ASAP, like basically like what I look for is, does the asker respect my time as well? And if you do not respect my time, I don't even have to charge you, because you already told me how much you think my efforts are worth.
Well, one thing I want to add before we move on, I think another thing that's valid, you don't always have to be paid, well, at least I don't. I don't always want to be paid in money. Sometimes if the person is, as a producer, I have a guy I go to who does all like my cuts, a guy who plays instruments for me. So sometimes I call it artist barter. Like he'll be like, if I replay these samples for you, these through instruments, can you master my next album or something? And I'm like, cool. So, and that's just the respect thing. Like he respects my skill and I respect his. And I have and then obviously the people in the collective. Everyone up here does like 2 or 3 different things on top of just rapping and stuff. I'm covered, and I don't always need money. And I feel like that's another way to get something, it's a mutually beneficial situation for everyone. So,
I'd like to add something as well. Here's another thing is that I used to say yes to everything, right? And for me, it was like, if you the homie, I don't really mind, and it's not about money. So it wasn't until I started doing this for a full-time job that I started realizing, that there were just people sending me tons and tons of trash. Just things that were not, what?
I mean, no, that's fair. You are not a landfill. Why they sending you trash?
Yeah, there were tracks where people would send me and I'd listen to them because it's like, I respect them. And I'd listen to the track and I'd be like, well, are you being realistic at this point? To know, like, okay, well, and it's no disrespect. As much as it is, it's like you also have to gauge where you are.
Like that's not disrespectful.
Right, so if...
I feel like the Kendrick track should start playing. Sit down, be humble, like...
And so what ended up happening was, man, I was still trying to appease other people, and it was just like, I can't rock with this. It's not something that I could do. It was just really bad. And so it just started getting to a point where it was like, well, man, you can't say yes to everybody, but you also, have to have a way to gauge, where you stand versus where they stand and how they look at your art, because it doesn't mean that it's a two-way street. Because I've been on the other side of that where I've asked artists that I looked up to, but I wasn't realistic enough to say, man, I don't think I'm on your league right now. So then I had to start like slowing my roll a little bit. In the same way as sometimes like you also have to say, okay, I have to build up to this point to where, and if that's not the case, monetarily, man, that's why you have to turn around and be like, look, I respect your time, this is going to take away from you making something for yourself that might make you money without me. And so that part of it is just like, for people that I respect, I respect their time and I respect their ability just as much as my own. So it's like if you don't respect me the same way I respect you, like that's when money comes into most conversations. And when I started looking at a lot of people that I thought were better than me, I would look at how they interacted with each other. And it was like money never becomes a discussion to two dope people. It just doesn't. As much as we want to think that it's kind of monetarily based, it's only when those two dope artists are making tons of money from said track, then it becomes like a split or something like that. But that's an automatic thing that you already know because you both bring value. Or they're going to do a track on yours and you're going to do a track on theirs because it's an equal exchange.
Example, even though the last joint he dropped was triggity trash. Eminem did a verse on Tech Nine's on a Tech Nine album with Chris Calico, and yeah, and this was I think this was Special Effects, a song called Speed 'Em, and it's a dope track. Chris Calico actually ran both of them off the track, to be completely honest, but it's really funny. But Eminem just did that verse in exchange for a swap with Tech. And that's something that, like, I don't know how often that happens, but it shocked a lot of people when you know, Tech said it. And for, like, I know not a lot of, that was like a wide audience for that interview. But just an example of something along those lines.
Yeah.
The last two tracks are fire. They're fire. I agree with you.
Oh boy.
Well, it's like, can you make a dope track without being misogynist or homophobic? and it becomes rarefied territory for him, apparently. Anyway, that's off topic.
Word. Okay, anywho. So I told the producers of this panel this, but I think in regards to collaborations, they have the pick of the litter in terms of who they can say yay or nay to. So I especially want to hear from our producers up here. What are the challenges you face with collabs, and how do you corral your vocalists to get things in on time, or at least before the year ends?
Oh, man. Ladies first, Eno.
I don't produce for anybody else, so I don't necessarily
Oh my God,
worry about that. I literally, like, that's,
Man,
I think I tried to once, and I was so, this panel has been very informative for me because I am trash at collaborating, and so I'm trying to learn. Obviously, I have some control issues, so I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts.
You want me to take it?
You can go, yeah, you go.
Okay.
I definitely have thoughts, but you go first.
Okay, so I'm not a vocalist, and what you'll see in Nerdcore, a lot of music actually, a lot of rappers are producers as well. So they produce their own things, and that's great, and, you know, but a lot of times rappers also like to work outside of that, find new people to work with, find new sounds. So as a producer, that means I basically can work with just about anybody. And also the advantage to that is there's probably one producer to every 500 rappers.
Yeah.
So
He said 500.
The
So-
conservative estimate.
yeah,
That's a conservative
exactly.
estimate.
Everybody's a rapper. So the fun part about that is that as we travel and we play shows and we meet new people, is I get to, you know, make connections with all these people and then listen to their music and fall in love with it or hate it, you know, whichever happens. And then once you fall in love with somebody, it's like, okay, I want to work with this person. So you reach out to them and say, hey, I want to work with you. Or sometimes they come up to you and say, hey, I want to work with you. You know, like, I really like your music and what you do.
When are we gonna collab, Bill Beats?
One day we'll get there. So I think the wrangling part of it, though, is the trickiest part. So where we live in Seattle, me and Shubs, there's a lot of rappers, but a lot of trash rappers, too. So it's almost, it becomes a thing where it's like, all right, well, the internet, I can reach out to just about anybody and say, hey, can you record this for me, send it to me, I'll put it on my beat, we'll make a song, it'll be fun. But you also don't live in the same state as them, so you have to message them every couple days, you know, and just be like, hey, remember me? And it's very common, though. It's very rare that you find an artist of any kind, even myself, that is like, yeah, I want to do this project, and then within a couple days it's done. So, yeah, that's my side of it.
In 2016, I took it upon myself with, Mega Ram was the one. He was like, I was talking about doing a record sampling Chrono Trigger, and I had done a record before sampling one of my other favorite RPGs, Final Fantasy 3, or in Japan 6. And it was all instrumental, and I was like, I'm gonna do the same thing as for a series I do called Hero Music, and I was like, I'm gonna do the same thing for Volume 2, I'm just gonna do Chrono Trigger. And Ram was like, yo, you should get the other members of the NPC involved, just show some team unity and stuff. I was like, this is gonna be A, great, and B, a friggin' headache, because I'm dealing with, there was like 12 people in the collective, and I wanted everyone to be on it. So I remember sending out the email in like June of 2016. I was like, hey, everyone, this is what I want to do. And here are beats that I custom made for everybody. And then it was like, and I hit send, and then it's like you sit back and you wait. Right? And so, of course, there's certain people, I was like, the first person I will receive a track from, and it was spot on, take a guess. It was Manny. Manny had it back to me in like 3 days. He's like, yo, here are all the parts, the stems. I played some saxophone on this track. You didn't ask me, but I'm going to do it anyway. I got piccolo on another track. I was like, damn. And the last track, all right, the album was supposed to come out, and it did. It did come out on time. It came out at the end of the year in December of 2016. And there was no one up here, but there was one person who isn't up here who sent me the track on Thanksgiving, their track. And I had sent them emails on emails. And I was like, all right, this might not make the album. But I was like, oh, it sucks, because I really wanted everyone in there. But they came through, and they were super and profusively apologetic about, not having it to me when they said, they were like, I'll have this to you by the end of the summer for sure. And they obviously didn't. They got it to Thanksgiving. But I will say the album turned out great, and obviously everyone did it off the strength of like collaboration. So I didn't ask for, or I would have paid people if they asked me for it. I probably shouldn't have said that after the fact, right?
Wait a minute.
But it is also a thing of like, this is crew, so if they ever need something from me, whatever it is, engineering, me to do a beat, whatever, I got them, because that's just what crew does. So, and I think the album turned out to be one of my favorite projects to put together, just off the challenge. And I feel like when you make music, it should kind of be a challenge. You should never have it be another thing my students always say. I teach, by the way, so I'm always taking stuff they say. They say, yo, Professor Murdoch, it was a layup. It should never be a layup. It shouldn't be like Steph Curry shooting from halfway, well, actually, he can kind of shoot from like anywhere on the court. Like the Kembe Mutombo taking a three-pointer, I guess is a better analogy. But yeah. But maybe LeBron from the free throw line. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should be a little bit of a challenge or whatever. That analogy is crazy. But anyway, it should be a bit of a challenge, but also something like feasible. And I felt like at the end of the day it was, and I'm very proud of it. And I have to thank everyone up here for making it happen. Because obviously, if not, it would just been like a bunch of Chrono Trigger sample beats, and I'm sure you all have heard that a gazillion times, so.
Sorry, real quick. I did make beats for one person. That was Mega Ran. We did a Castlevania project together, and
that track is fire. The whole project's fire.
Forgot. But that was my first time reaching out to someone as a producer, and so that helped me to gain confidence in my own project. So, yeah, shout outs to Raheem.
I actually can speak trying to work with singers, which is new territory for me as of a year ago. It's a similar process because vocalists are in a whole different category. So I think that's something I'm more bringing this up because like everybody's not working with a whole lot of really dope singers all the time right now. And like if that happens, the one thing that I have learned is you have to praise singers a lot more as you're trying to work with them. Just an anecdote, that's all.
The more you know.
Right. All right. So this is kind of like our last question before we take more questions from all of you. So start thinking of some questions to ask this esteemed panel. Y'all, what's like the biggest lesson you've learned from either doing collabs or not doing collabs?
I could definitely take both sides of that. Not doing collabs. I think I damaged myself or set myself back a little bit because I didn't want to work with people unless I could pay them, and I didn't want to waste anybody's time, and I was being too self-deprecating about my actual talent level, and which leads into the other side of it is that if you're dope or you've worked in your craft to the point to where like there's a certain level about you that's undeniable, people want to work with you, and you need to just accept that. That's a hard lesson that it took me a while to actually be okay with. And shout out to Atlas again, because he kind of put me on that journey in a sense where like I knew how dope he was, and he was trying to work with me, and I was like, well, how much do you want to make beats for me? He was like, dude, I just want to work with you. And I was like, okay.
How about some of them free beats, though?
But that's been a really big lesson generally with a lot of MCs and producers where I think I've had to learn to understand that people want to work with me and then figure out how to balance that with showing that I value you and your time. And I'm gonna blast you some kind of way in a good way, like really like put you out there every time that I perform on your track, or like really shout you out if somebody hears a verse and they don't know you and they don't know who you are or what have you, or really try to like do right by you, but also understand that like people do actually want to work with me, and that's actually okay. As crazy as that sounds, it took me a while to
I want to work with
that.
you, Ryan.
Sugar Bros over.
Joker Bros for life.
I like working with you too.
Aw, love. I guess, yeah, that's what I learned, is that I learned who I like. That's like, honestly, like I said, the people I work with now is like people I like. And then the other thing I really learned how to become a better rapper, because shout outs to all of you on stage here who have worked with me, because I listened to some of the early stuff we did, and like compared to where I've developed now, it's like kind of trash. And I'm like, oh, they still collabed with me. That was so nice of them. Like, you know, it wasn't trash, but like, you know, it's. But you know, and I listened to it, and I'm like, oh, I like what they did. Actually, to the point where I made a song like 2 months ago. And I texted Eno and I said, hey, is this on one of your songs? Because this sounds like a line that you would have rapped, and I just want to make sure, because I would have been really, really sad if I like recorded this verse that I was really proud of, and come to find out it was because I was listening to a bunch of her songs the week before, and I like jacked a line. But you know, I listen to them and I'm like, oh, I like this in their flow. Like I like what Omai does with the harmonization. I like. Ryan's just funny, like, but I like what everybody does, and so you know, I try not to like go as far as style jacking, but almost like, you know, incorporating little bits to pay homage to them as well. You know, like, hey, I respect you, and I think that like what you do can help make me a better performer and artist and a musician, and so I've learned that I can learn a lot just by collaborating.
What he said.
I do have one more thing on that. Like as an instrumentalist, I have learned to just walk in and be okay with walking in and laying things down in the right situation. And I think generally, like when you're in a creative industry, I think you have to be okay with taking the time risk sometimes and falling into things. That's been a big thing for me too.
I think one of the things that I'm really happy about is through working with some of the people I've worked with, and just being in the vicinity of, I mean, everybody up here. I've always been self-conscious about a lot of things, but you know, seeing that I can be me and that I can do things the way that I want to without compromising my style or my integrity pertaining to it. I mean, I've learned through collaboration to be unapologetically me, and that is the most, you know, beautiful thing I think I can ever do, because I've always struggled to see what it is that my style was. And so looking at everyone else, it's always been more like, you know, where do I sit? You know, where's my talent level? How do people see me? And that is just something that inspires me so much, because I feel like through everyone else and learning from them, I get to be this unique person that is me. And I'm really thankful for that. And if I don't say that enough, man, I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
True. If you ever want to make sure that you don't waste a compliment, use it on Chris, because he's like the most appreciative of anything that like people say to him.
Very true.
Man,
I think another thing, and he basically said everything I was going to say, but
Yes, because you did it to me on the first question.
yeah, I did. I think another thing is you start to learn where your strengths are and aren't when you collab with other people, right? Because everybody, like, I mean, rapping is an RPG, right? Like you have your style, and then you fit with somebody else, you know what I'm saying? And then you make a party, you beat the final boss, you know what I mean? So I'm going to use myself as an example. Like, I'm okay at rapping, but I've learned that over the years that like my strengths really are like in hooks, right? I'm all about hooks anywhere I go. And if I do a collab with somebody, I'm like, and they, you know, they have their song, they have their feel that they want to go for. I'm like, I don't want to like jack your hook, but here's an idea. And they're like, you know what? I actually really appreciate that. Let's do it. Let's do it this way. And I was like, I just want to throw something your way just to make it better. It's your song. You can do it however you want. But I think I've come to learn that definitely people do have their individual strengths, and when you ask for collabs and all that stuff, you want to grab the right people who can complement the things that you lack and all that other stuff. Synergy. Buzzwords, yeah.
Anybody else before we open it up to our guests?
So I have a wireless mic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the first person who wants to ask a question.
Oh yeah, we're gonna Jesse Raphael this, so you know you can either speak from the diaphragm, take that mic, whatever. Don't be shy though. We take hands as well.
If you ask for collabs, we're going to charge you.
We give hands too.
Or I bet
will
I
not
get up
take
and come
that.
to you too.
But we'll
We can really do that. Huh?
a polite one.
Oh, wow, that's a good question.
Oh, okay.
I think as rappers, in the rap point of view, WAV files. I mean, that's about it. Like, bounce it to a WAV file, then give it to somebody else.
So the answer is Google Drive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we use Google Drive. We put everything in our Drive and you share it, right?
Dropbox, Google
And-
Drive, WeTransfer.
And it's because most of us, like, we produce our own stuff, but we all have different things that we're used to in producing. So, like, I use Reaper, he uses Logic, right? I'm not gonna be like, here's a Logic file that's really trash, so you can mess with it, right? I'm gonna give him just the files so he can do his own thing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and as producers, maybe Kyle can.
And WAV
Excuse me,
files
K.
are very
K.
big,
K-Murda.
right? So Kay just said something, and it changed my life probably like a couple weeks ago, is WeTransfer. Because when you got a Google Drive and you only got like 10 gigs, and you got to put in them WAV files, it takes up so much space.
Like extra
You don't know when they're going to pull those vocals, and that space is just being eaten in your drive. WeTransfer, you get like 30 days. You send them a file, it don't cost you nothing out your Google Drive, and if you take more than 30 days to take these vocals, you didn't want them.
And you get a
That's
confirmation email when someone downloads it, so it's like, I know you got the files, yeah.
I'm watching you just sitting there waiting,
Yeah, it is.
looking out
It's
the
a creeper
window, like.
program, you know?
It is really great.
No, it's great.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think maybe a couple more questions. questions? Yeah.
Oh wow.
Favorite collab? Okay.
Whatever reason, in whatever capacity, like what collaborative song that you was like, that was the hottest shit ever. You were just like, you just were really loud. That you like personally.
Anything Bill Beats and I do? I mean, can I say that?
Yeah, we do whole albums together that are.
Yeah, like everything we've done. No. Well, I'm trying to think. We did this one track. It was fun called Chainmail. And Legitney Houston, there were like 10 to 15 people on this thing by the end of us like gathering verses and just being like, let's have a fun activity called we're gonna give Bill Beats all the verses to just link together. And that was a lot of fun because there were some folks there that we have never heard of or haven't collabed with, and you know, it was a great way to meet more people in our community. And yeah, that was a lot. I thought that was fun.
You can have
Yeah.
that one out.
Oh my God.
That's my favorite collab I've done ever. Anytime we're driving and it comes on, like if I'm streaming through SoundCloud because I reposted it, I just start laughing the second the first 5 seconds comes on, and then my fiance is looking at me like, what? Like, why are you laughing so hard? It hasn't even started. I'm like, because I know what the song is.
That song's called Gamecast. It's me rapping, singing. He's producing. It's on SoundCloud. Yeah, get it.
Check out our SoundCloud, bro.
11 a.m. before deadline. It's a track that I did with IQ and Richie Branson. And the reason it's my favorite is Richie had thyroid cancer at the time and wasn't recording. And we were judging the Nerdcore VPC, which we had dominated the previous year. And I had to throw that in there, I'm sorry. And I hit up Richie and I was like, hey, I know you're not feeling well, but I think it would be kind of fun to troll the VPC with a Crunktaku entry. We were called Team Crunktaku because I'm Nerd Crunk and Richie's the Otaku King. And, you know, it would be cool to troll it. And we pulled IQ onto the track, and Richie recorded through 3 tumors attached that were on his thyroid. Recorded a sick verse where in it he talks about it potentially being the last verse he ever made because he was about to go in for surgery and he didn't know if his voice was going to be the same or if he would make it out of the surgery. So like I actually teared up when I heard his verse because it was so like heavy. But we all ate on the track. The beat was sick. IQ went super ham, and that was the first time I think where I heard IQ really, really elevate super hard lyrically. And now he does it all the time. So I think it was a really good moment for all of us. But that's my favorite collab. 11 a.m. before deadline. Look it up on YouTube or SoundCloud. I might play it when the panel ends.
I actually did not understand what you just said.
I said I might play the song when the panel ends.
Oh, what? That's what's up. For me, I was gonna say 11 a.m., but I actually have 2. The other one for me is The Power of Understanding with O Super, because it was one of the first times that I really got to see, you know, in a song that wasn't Linda Slade, the reaction of music to people and how it makes them feel. And I just got to see like the reaction to people in, I think we did a show at we had like a show for the victims of Pulse, and we did The Power of Understanding, and to see how the people in that room were moved, it really shook me, you know. So I would definitely say The Power of Understanding.
So real quick, I have a song called 1080p about my mental health issues, and I was able to collaborate with Jean Grey, who's like, she's so cool, she's so cool. I had to like hunt her down on the internet and like email her manager and her manager's manager. And she is on the remix to this track, and it still feels unreal that this woman's voice is on a beat that I produced. So definitely that.
I guess Forever Famicom, I just really thought that came together cool. And my favorite track actually is a song called The Girl with the Makeup that sampled Kirby's Dreamland. Just because I like the story, I thought it was cool, and it was one of the tracks that had like a story kind of. I mean, Rand's a great storyteller, but like that track, like the way it kind of came together with the beat, I don't know. It's just still today, like when I listen to the album occasionally or hear it pop up, I'm like, I want to hear that song. And I guess that's, I mean, I really liked, and I don't say that just because I'm surrounded by the people who helped make it, but Hero Music 2 is special just because, like, it was a challenge. Like, it was like beating a game. And I'm really happy with the way it came out. And I feel like everyone who's on it, one of the things I liked is that I didn't know how the tracks I produced for everyone were going to turn out, but I really liked the way Kadesh's track is. I like Shub's track. I like Eno's track. Excuse me, Samus's track.
That's okay.
Yeah, everyone, I felt like I tried to do something that bring out their personality. So, and they weren't like, this is whack. So it kind of worked out, I guess, you know?
Anybody else want to share? We got like 2 minutes left, so.
His favorite one's Gamecast.
I'm going with what he say.
So I guess we go on.
Set. So, lastly, one, thank you for hanging out with us and hearing us talk shop. Again, we are the NPC Collective. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, npccollective.com. And just so you know who we are a collective of nerdy people of color that raises awareness of the contributions of marginalized peoples in nerdy spaces through specifically content creation. Basically, TLDR, we here and we're doing shit, so you cannot run us out. So let's go down the line real quick. Tell us where we can find you on the internet, and if you're doing anything else at MAGFest, tell us where we can find you this weekend.
All right, so I'm Omai. You can find me at ohmi.com or SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Twitter, all that stuff. We do have one show tomorrow as the Choker Bros, myself and Creative Mindframe, tomorrow at 6-ish in the Eastern Shore lobby area where the
Underground area.
underground, yeah.
I am Creative Mindframe. You can find me on pretty much all social media as at Creative Mindframe. My website's www.creativemindfra.me. You see what I did there? I broke it up. So then from there you can link to my social media stuff. That's it. I'm doing the Choker Bro stuff. We're also playing with Shubzilla tomorrow, but I'll let her talk about that as well.
Hi, I'm Samus. You can find me at Samus Music, SAMMUS Music, pretty much anywhere. I also have a little podcast situation that talks about how to do your art, and that's at zero-suits.com. Oh, shit, sorry, I'm performing tomorrow at 8.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was like, and so again, I'm Shubzilla. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my website or my music page, shubzilla.bandcamp.com. I also am going to be performing main stage, Bill Beats and I, and also, I guess, Choker Bros too, for a couple songs. Over at main stage tomorrow at 3. And just a quick plug on my hashtag top tier parking. I also am a curator of shitty ass parking. So, you know, if you have a submission you'd like to bring, then tag me on it.
That's funny. At Neosonics, Neosonix. You can find me in the audience attending these other guys and gals shows the next 2 days.
Holla.
everything at Kadesh Flow, KADESHFLOW, KadeshFlow.com. And you can support me at patreon.com/KadeshFlow, which I haven't really pushed yet outside of a Facebook post, and I'm about to start pushing. Yeah, it's just one Facebook post. Got a couple people on there now, but I'm definitely going to start pushing that. You can find me here supporting and fanboying at Amanda Libre's set now, basically, on main stage. I'll be playing with Shubzilla and my fellow Choco Bros at 3 p.m. on Saturday on main stage. I'll be fanboying on Samus's set at main stage at 8 p.m. Yeah. And the 6 p.m. slot for the underground thing. I'm performing at that too.
Thank you, guys. So I'm IQ. You can find me at IQ Music, EYEQMUSIC, or if that doesn't work, then just reverse it, Music IQ. Pretty much on all social media, and I think that's it.
So Bill Beats, at Bill Beats, everything. I was able to lock that one down. And then I run like a small little production company called Noir Grime, which is really where we release everything. So if, on Bandcamp, if you go to Noir Grime, you can find that. We are playing at 3 o'clock Saturday on the main stage, as you guys already know. And then I have a bunch of download codes that you guys can have if you want any, which are collaborative records that I've worked on. So anybody wants any, you can have them.
Cool.
Thank you.
So, again, y'all, I know we went like 3 minutes over. Yes, IQ? Oh, no, he was not raising his hand. So, okay. So, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll see y'all around. Please come to all the things that we had just mentioned and find us.